Hey guys, Vi here. So we just had 7.24b, right? And even though it wasn't given its own number, 7.25, I actually made a big difference to the game. At least bot lane will be a lot different now. The stat websites and stuff are putting 7.24 and 7.24b together. So it's hiding how much of an impact the nerfs and buffs are actually having over the past few days. I decided to look properly at who is a lot worse or a lot better after the patch, so hopefully we stay ahead a little bit more. I've put these into major changes, a kind of middle ground group, minor changes, and maybe big, maybe not, we'll have to see, and some final stuff as well. This is what we're going to be looking at though, the day-by-day win rate of champions since the patch in. And normally they stay relatively the same, they can kind of go up and down a little bit, but on the 15th, the patch 7.24b went to live. Ignore the last day, 18th, it has only just started, so it won't be anywhere near as accurate. We are going to be looking at the 3 full days since the patch hit. The one you're looking at right now is Miss Fortune. It's the first of the major changes actually. She technically got 5 or 6 nerfs depending on how you want to look at it. The first one, she got hit by the E cooldown change directly to her, an extra 4 seconds. Mana flow band and scorch nerfs as well from the sorcery tree, and even the sorcery bonus AD nerfs are in there as well, plus the lethality nerfs, and she builds 2 lethality items. You can see the effect it had from pushing towards 53% down to just over 50%. To give you an idea, the first level was very near Ezreal, and now this is down to most other AD carries level. This is why I think it's actually kind of a cool idea to do a video like this. You read the notes, you watch my video and see one Miss Fortune nerf, but actually there are loads of other things together that are making her a lot worse. Mainly it's going to be her poke damage down, so I think like good Miss Fortune players will be doing okay, but like bad ones won't be able to. They would tend to just press their E to trade, but now they do less damage with that, they can't do it as often, and they run out of mana a lot faster, all things which can really hurt a bad player. Now we have the flip side of this, the effects actually of that nerf. So now the most punishing AD carries have been nerfed, Ezreal, Miss Fortune, we have room for others to come back up, and Vayne is the main one here. Now up to very close to the level Miss Fortune was before her nerfs, and it makes sense, right? You take away lane bullies from the game and you have the best mid to late game AD carry in Vayne surviving and winning a lot more. That's just how it's going to work. Tristana isn't as good, but definitely improved since the patch dropped for the same reasons, and Jinx as well. Less than the other two, but definitely on the right track now and improving just because the lane bullies are out a little bit. Yasuo is the other really big one actually. Buffs to his Q, his R, and magic resist growth per level. His win rate is never going to look that good just because it's Yasuo. Same with Zed. A lot of people play him who probably shouldn't. The fact that overnight he jumped almost 4% up though is actually really good. It wouldn't surprise me if good Yasuo players are able to win a lot more now after those buffs as well. He is actually pretty good versus Ornn. It's something that we don't really see very often. Stat wise, at least he does well in that matchup, but we've had no idea because he was too weak anyway, so he couldn't really stand up to it, and it wasn't fair if that makes sense. Now we might see him a lot more though just to beat him. Jace got really screwed this patch, very similar to Miss Fortune actually. Got hit by 2 direct nerfs to him, his Q damage and his E cooldown as well, both are pretty big. Mana flow band getting nerfed, Scorch getting nerfed, and the sorcery AD bonus plus lethality. It's actually 7 nerfs if you count that he buys 2 nerfed items, 2 lethality items. That explains the drop down, and before the 11th even, like what we can't actually see at the moment, he was actually even higher than he was before, so it's probably even worse than we think. It seems to be a little bit up and down for now, but he did get hit pretty hard, that is for sure. Ironically, a lot of tanks do okay versus Jace because they are just like kind of too strong in the game at the moment, and they can outscale him, and that's going to be even worse now. Another one is Corki for the mid lane. Q damage down a bit, but AD growth down as well. Mana flow ban and Scorch kind of like nerfs indirectly to him. I was actually wrong about this a little bit. I said I didn't think the Corki nerfs would matter that much because fleet footwork would kind of carry him over. To be fair, I think fleet footwork might still be really good, but overall he is actually quite a bit weaker. Dropping from one of the highest win rates down to about average, honestly, I think he is still good, and precision primary can limit the nerf damage as well. So he's still going to be good, still picked quite a lot, but he's actually a bit weaker. Rammus is the last major change we have so far. They've removed the base attack speed that was given to him in the preseason, but it's kind of weird because yes, he took a big hit, but because his win rate was so nuts before, he's still really strong anyway. This is partly because everyone is still playing damage, and Rammus is like one of the best damage counters we have at the moment, shutting those kind of type of champions down. If Vayne becomes meta though, Vayne is really good against Rammus. So now we have the middle kind of the pack nerfs, I guess. They did make a difference, but not quite as much as the major ones. Pantheon, there was nothing direct in this patch, but lethality got nerfed, Mana flow ban got nerfed, Scorch got nerfed as well. They all hit his poke damage. You actually have a pretty big drop for him, but this might make Electrocute more attractive now to kind of go burst instead of poke. You skip the sorcery tree altogether, you get domination and precision, which means he only got hit by the lethality changes, which actually isn't that bad. Poke Pantheon though is definitely not as good in 7.24b. So Ezreal actually got kind of shafted in this patch. Got a direct nerf to his attack speed growth, Mana flow ban, Scorch, and sorcery AD bonus as well, which will suck, but overall he actually didn't fall as hard as I thought he was going to. Now I think this is mostly because of Miss Fortune. Remember, all these nerfs are relative to their role and stuff. Because Miss Fortune took a massive hit, she was one of the best against him, he's still going to be really, really good, if that makes sense. Vayne is rising up though as a pretty good counter to Ezreal. She outscales massively, she can duel him so easily. This is another reason why Vayne got so much better this patch. Sticking with the bot lane, Leona only went down a little bit. Overall, I think she is weaker, but with the nerfs to poke supports, which we'll get into in a second, it means aggressive and engaged ones are actually even better than before. So because she's meta, she actually looks better, if that makes sense. I reckon she would have dropped a lot harder if those sorcery nerfs didn't happen, and that's pretty much why she's still really good. A bit of a surprise, Kled only got a few minor buffs, but he shot up at the start of this patch. It did go down a bit yesterday, so we'll have to see over time, but it's a really good start. Kled is actually amazing against a lot of bruisers and Ornn as well. That is definitely going to help in this meta right now where Ornn is pretty much pick or ban. Probably one of the few bruisers actually who is doing really well this patch. Another reason why Kled got better was because Temu actually got worse this patch. 2 direct changes to him, 2 direct nerfs, and then the sorcery stuff as well, hitting Scorch and Mana Flow Ban, both of which he uses quite a lot. He still has a really good win rate, but like you can see it did drop down for him in 7.24B a little bit. It's a bit different. Like he dropped from about an 8% play rate as well to 7%. So not massive, but less people are playing him and he's winning less as well. So minor changes. First of all, Katarina got her E nerfed damage-wise, right? And it seems actually kind of like a big deal, but I wasn't really sure how big of a thing it would be actually. She did drop, but it's already starting to rebound again. It doesn't look that bad. It kind of looks a bit minor, which is why she's in the minor category. But again, you have to kind of wait and see with this one. It wasn't that big of a drop to start with, so she's probably going to be fine. Renekton was really shafted in preseason, still below a 50% win rate if you look at it in the moment, but at least he's not hovering around 45% anymore, which is good, I think. Like, he's not that strong. It was a minor buff, but it did make him a little bit better overall. Something a bit different, but the Mana Flow Band and the Scorch changes also hit poke supports pretty hard. Sona was already hit in 7.24 and before that as well with some pretty harsh nerfs, but those indirect ones as well that we had now also messed her up at the same time. She was the highest win rate support, now down to below 50%, which is kind of crazy actually. It looked like she was kind of on her way down anyway, and this just made it worse. But if you have a look at Karma and Nami, who also do a very similar job, they took a little bit of a dip from these nerfs, but it wasn't major at all. It seems like this was kind of just over the top for Sona, and it's just made her really weak with her other nerfs as well. The knock-on effect from that stuff, like less poke or poke not being as good, having less mana to do it, means we're going to get more fighting bot lane now, I think, like full-on engage fights. Kind of, you can see with Thresh, for example, he's almost up to a 50% win rate. He is never that high, kind of similar to Yasuo or Zed, because it's Thresh and everybody plays him, but more aggressive supports are doing a lot better. Alistar is on the rise as well, a little bit smaller, but it is getting better as we get into the patch more and more. Taric is similar, small rise, but I think actually he's honestly the best support to play right now. You can fight with your son in the lane phase, you can actually take Ignite and kill people, you can tank though, and you can protect in like kind of one manly package. Mid lane champions, kind of like Xerath and stuff, who are heavily sorcery focused, they heavily poke focused as well with the Scorch and Mana Flow Ban, so they don't have as much mana now. They are going to all take a little bit of a hit, but as we can kind of see already, if they're only getting hit by the sorcery changes, it doesn't seem that bad. Poke champions in general will be hit the most by these sorcery changes, like Xerath a little bit, for example. It's kind of hard to tell honestly, but it seems to be a little bit down since the patch, but he's not really bouncing back either. It isn't major at all. The changes are really manageable. It's just not as strong. Azir is a bit different. He got hit with the direct nerf to late game damage and then the sorcery stuff on top of it. So it actually made a bit of a difference. You can't really tell exactly how bad it is going to be just yet, but going from a 50% win rate to 46% is awful if that actually stays at that level. But we don't know if he's going to rebound or anything. It's kind of weird as well because the changes were not massive, but Xerath is pretty much the hard counter to Azir. It dumpsters him at the moment. Worst matchup by far stat-wise, so that cannot be helping either. Just a few more smaller ones, like Fizz might be one to watch out for right now. Picked more after the patch and winning a little bit more as well. Just something small to come out of this. And Warwick and Udyr as well. Same, no changes at all, but up a little bit. This might end up being nothing at all, but they both seem pretty underrated at the moment, with Rammus falling down a little bit and actually seem top tier. Some of the stuff I looked at as well were like lethality and the sorcery effects on other champions. So Zed, for example, got no direct buffs or nerfs. It's kind of hard to tell if the lethality really messed him up or not, but it doesn't look like it, honestly. They don't seem to be massive unless that champion got hit by something else as well and lost like even more damage than just the arm pen, if that makes sense. So like Pantheon lost arm pen, but he also lost a lot of damage from the sorcery tree nerfs as well. Jin took a bit of a hit though, so sorcery and lethality changes together seems to be bouncing back a little bit already, but it might take a little bit of time to adjust to having like not as much damage or as much mana to spam things. Kha'Zix and Rengar are a little bit weird. I looked at them for the lethality nerf to see if it kind of actually made a difference. Kha'Zix even more for some reason. This one is really weird though. I'm not actually sure what happened, but Warwick and Udyr and Rammus actually are the worst matchups for these guys stat wise, and we just talked about all of them being a little bit stronger, even Rammus being weaker but still played quite a lot. You can see the full 3 days of the patch, win rates went down, but this might just be kind of like a random spike down and back to normals pretty soon, honestly. So that is going to be what the new 7.24b patch actually looks like, the effects that the buffs and the nerfs actually had. Some of this stuff was kind of hard to realize because like Misfortune only got one direct nerf, but a bunch of others that actually screwed her up at the same time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you did. Make sure you subscribe, but for now, I'll leave you with the robot.